2000. Luis Figo. The transfer that shook football. Figo had just produced 14 goals and 25 assists in 52 appearances for Barcelona, the creative heartbeat of the team, their captain, the player the fans adored, before making the most controversial move in the sport's history. Florentino Perez had promised to sign Figo as part of his Real Madrid presidential campaign, and when he won, the deal was activated. Figo crossed the divide from Barcelona to Real Madrid, and overnight he became the most hated man in Catalonia. When he returned to Camp Nou for the first time, fans threw a pig's head onto the pitch. He won the Ballon d'Or with 197 points, becoming only the second Portuguese winner after Eusebio in 1965, and he also captained Portugal to the semi-finals of Euro 2000, scoring a stunning long-range goal in the 3-2 comeback victory over England. But Zinedine Zidane finished second with 181 points after winning Euro 2000 with France and being named player of the tournament, scoring the golden goal against Portugal in the semi-final against Figo's own team. 16 points separated them, and the argument over which performance deserved it more was one football never fully settled. 2001. Michael Owen. 22 years old, and Owen won the Ballon d'Or on the back of one of the most dramatic FA Cup finals the competition has ever seen. Liverpool's Cup treble, FA Cup, League Cup and UEFA Cup in a single season, gave him the platform, but the moment that won the vote was the FA Cup final against Arsenal. Liverpool losing 1-0, Owen coming alive in the final 10 minutes, scoring twice, including an 88th-minute winner that turned the match on its head. He won with 176 points ahead of Raúl at Real Madrid and Oliver Kahn, who had just won the Champions League with Bayern Munich. Many felt Owen's victory was defined by one performance rather than sustained dominance, but the treble he helped deliver was undeniable, and at 22, he remains one of the youngest winners in the award's modern history. 2002. Ronaldo. The greatest comeback story football has ever told. 4 years earlier, before the 1998 World Cup final, Ronaldo Nazario had suffered a mysterious seizure in his hotel room, played the final against France in a state nobody fully understood, and Brazil lost 3-0. Then came two career-threatening knee injuries, cruciate ligament ruptures in 1999 and 2000 that nearly ended his career at 23. Most people assumed the best version of Ronaldo was gone. Then at the 2002 World Cup, he scored 8 goals, including both in the 2-0 final victory against Germany, and lifted the trophy with tears streaming down his face and that iconic shaved haircut that the entire world copied the following week. He won his second Ballon d'Or with 169 points. But here is where the story gets fascinating. Oliver Kahn finished third after winning the World Cup Golden Ball, named the best player of the entire tournament, despite Germany losing the final. A goalkeeper winning the Golden Ball and then losing the Ballon d'Or to the striker who scored the goals that beat him in the final. You could not script it. 2003. Pavel Nedved. This is the Ballon d'Or winner, who watched the biggest match of his career from the stands. Nedved drove Juventus to the 2003 Champions League final in Manchester, almost single-handedly, running, pressing, shooting, dominating every match with an energy that was a decade ahead of its time. Then he picked up a yellow card in the semi-final against Real Madrid and was suspended for the final. Juventus lost to AC Milan on penalties without him. Nedved won the Ballon d'Or and missed the match it should have been built around. But Thierry Henry finished second with 24 Premier League goals and 20 assists for Arsenal in 2002 to 2003. One of the most complete attacking seasons the English game had ever seen. Arsène Wenger was furious at the result. Paolo Maldini finished third after captaining Milan to the Champions League title, 40 years after his father Cesare had done the same. Henry's repeated near misses at the Ballon d'Or were only just beginning. 2004. Andriy Shevchenko, the Ukrainian Arrow, Serie A top scorer with 24 goals in 32 matches, and AC Milan won the Scudetto, their first league title in 5 years. Shevchenko was the most clinical finisher in what was then the most competitive and tactically demanding league in world football, scoring in a division where defenders like Nesta, Cannavaro and Maldini made every goal feel like it was earned through a war of attrition. But Thierry Henry's name was there again. For the second consecutive year, Wenger pointed out that Henry had produced more goals, more assists, and more complete attacking output than the winner. Deco finished second after being the brain behind Porto's stunning Champions League triumph under Mourinho, and then leading Portugal to the Euro 2004 final on home soil. Ronaldinho was already third, already brilliant, already building towards the peak that would arrive the following year. Henry's supporters still consider 2003 and 2004 back-to-back as one of the greatest Ballon d'Or injustices in the award's history. 2005. Ronaldinho. If you wanted to show someone what football looks like when it is played with pure joy, you would show them Ronaldinho in 2005, FIFA World Player of the Year in 2004 and 2005, Barcelona winning La Liga, and the moment that defined everything, November 2005, Barcelona 3-0 Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, Ronaldinho producing 2 goals of such outrageous quality that the home fans gave him a standing ovation in their own stadium, because his football was too beautiful to resist, even when it was tearing their team apart in front of them. No-look passes, elasticos, bicycle kicks, step-overs that left defenders standing in the wrong postcode, all while producing the elite-level output that actually won trophies, which is what separated Ronaldinho from every other entertainer before him. He did not just play beautiful football, he played beautiful football that dominated. Frank Lampard finished second after winning the Premier League with Chelsea under Mourinho, driving the title from central midfield in a campaign that showed English football at its most disciplined and effective. Steven Gerrard finished third after the Istanbul Miracle. The 2005 Champions League final, Liverpool 3-3 AC Milan, after being 3-0 down at half-time, Gerrard's header starting the most famous comeback in the competition's history. If the Ballon d'Or were given for a single match, Gerrard would have won it without question. But across a full year, Ronaldinho was untouchable, and his victory closed the most varied era the Ballon d'Or had ever seen. 2006, Fabio Cannavaro, one of only 3 defenders in football history to win the Ballon d'Or, alongside Franz Beckenbauer and Matthias Sammer. Cannavaro captained Italy to the 2006 World Cup, dominating every striker he faced through positioning and intelligence rather than pace or size, proving that a defender who reads the game at the highest level can be the most valuable player in the entire tournament. Henry finished in the top 3 once again, his World Cup final appearance with France adding to his case, and Gianluigi Buffon, who had been equally dominant behind Cannavaro in that Italian defence, had a strong claim. But the World Cup was everything in 2006, and Cannavaro's individual performance across it was flawless. 2007, Kaka, the last winner before the duopoly. Kaka won the Champions League with AC Milan, scoring across both legs of the semi-final against Manchester United, with runs from the number 10 position that arrived in the box at the speed of a winger, the fastest playmaker football had ever seen. He won the Ballon d'Or ahead of 2 players who would go on to own it for the next decade. Lionel Messi finished second, and Cristiano Ronaldo finished third. Both were already knocking on the door. Within 12 months, the era of variety was over, and the most dominant individual rivalry in football history was about to begin. 2008. Cristiano Ronaldo. The door opened and Ronaldo walked through it first. 42 goals in a single season at Manchester United, a number no winger in Premier League history had produced before. The Premier League title and the Champions League, beating Chelsea on penalties in Moscow in a final where Ronaldo missed his own penalty, but still lifted the trophy. His first Ballon d'Or at 23. The player who had arrived at Old Trafford as a skinny, step-over-obsessed teenager had transformed himself into the most physically complete attacking footballer the English game had ever seen. The beginning of something nobody could have predicted would last a full decade. 2009 to 2012. Lionel Messi. 4 consecutive. 4 in a row. Nobody in the Ballon d'Or's history had ever done that. And the scale of what Messi produced across those 4 years is almost impossible to comprehend even now. 2009, Barcelona's treble under Guardiola, La Liga, Copa del Rey, Champions League, the false 9 innovation, the 6-2 Clásico, Messi's first Ballon d'Or at 22. 2010, retained as Barcelona won La Liga again, his dribbling and goal-scoring reaching a level where the statistics stopped making sense to people watching from the outside. 2011, Champions League winner again, Barcelona beating Manchester United 3-1 at Wembley in a final that Sir Alex Ferguson later called the best performance he had ever faced. 73 goals across all competitions in the calendar year, numbers that belong to a different sport. And then 2012, 91 goals in a single calendar year. 91. More than most professional strikers score in 5 full seasons combined. A number so beyond the boundaries of what anyone thought was possible that it redefined the ceiling of individual performance in football, and it may stand as a record for as long as the sport exists. 4 consecutive Ballon d'Ors cemented Messi as the greatest individual performer the game had ever produced, and the debate that would define the next 5 years was already at full volume. 2013 to 2014. Cristiano Ronaldo. 2 consecutive. Ronaldo's response was exactly what you would expect from a player whose entire career is built on refusing to be second. In 2013, he scored 69 goals across the calendar year and single-handedly fired Portugal to the 2014 World Cup with a hat-trick against Sweden in the playoffs. A qualification match that felt more like a Ballon d'Or audition, Ronaldo against Ibrahimovic, and Ronaldo winning by force of will. But the 2013 award carried one of the most heated debates of the entire decade. Frank Ribéry had just led Bayern Munich to the treble under Jupp Heynckes, winning the Bundesliga, the DFB Pokal, and the Champions League, and had already been named UEFA Best Player in Europe. Many felt that a player who won every trophy available to him at club level had the strongest case imaginable, and Ribéry himself later said he believed the award should have been his. The vote was remarkably tight. Ronaldo took it with 27.99% ahead of Messi at 24.72 and Ribéry at 23.36. And the question it left behind was one football still argues over: should individual goal-scoring output outweigh collective trophy achievement? In 2014, the argument was simpler. Ronaldo was the Champions League's top scorer with 17 goals as Real Madrid won La Décima, their long-awaited 10th European Cup. Ronaldo scoring in the final against Atletico Madrid after Ramos's injury-time equaliser had kept the dream alive. His second and third Ballon d'Ors, and the clearest statement he could make: Messi was not alone at the top. 2015, Lionel Messi, number 5. The MSN season. And if you were watching football in 2015, you know exactly what those 3 letters mean. Messi, Suarez, and Neymar formed the most devastating front 3 in football history. A combination of Messi's dribbling and vision, Suarez's aggression and finishing, and Neymar's flair and directness that gave defenders 3 completely different problems to solve simultaneously. And nobody solved all 3 across an entire season. Barcelona won the treble, La Liga, Copa del Rey, and the Champions League, with a front line that produced over 120 goals combined, playing a style of attacking football so relentless that opponents were often beaten before they had worked out which of the 3 to double mark, because doubling one left the other 2 in space, and any one of the 3 was capable of destroying you alone. Messi's 5th Ballon d'Or widened his lead over Ronaldo to 5-3 after Ronaldo had closed the gap across the previous 2 years, and the debate shifted from "are they equal" to "has Messi pulled away?" Because not only was Messi the best individual player in the world, he was the best individual player in the world inside the most devastating attacking unit the sport had ever assembled. 2016 to 2017, Cristiano Ronaldo, 2 more. Ronaldo's answer to that question was emphatic. In 2016, he won Euro 2016 with Portugal, going off injured in the final against France, but still lifting the trophy, his nation's first major international honour, and the Champions League with Real Madrid in the same year. In 2017, he scored twice as Real Madrid beat Juventus 4-1 in the Champions League final to win it back-to-back, finishing the calendar year with his 4th and 5th Ballon d'Ors, tying Messi's count at 5 each. The greatest individual rivalry in football history played out through the Ballon d'Or across a full decade. 10 years, 10 awards, every single one belonging to one of 2 men, 5 each, and the world split in half over which one deserved more. The debate that defined football for an entire generation was never truly about who was better in absolute terms, because the answer depended entirely on what you valued. Messi's creativity, dribbling, playmaking, and the ability to do things with a football that looked like they came from a different dimension. Or Ronaldo's athleticism, goal-scoring volume, physical reinvention across 2 decades, and the ability to deliver on the biggest stages when the lights were brightest. Football had never seen 2 players dominate a single award for 10 consecutive years, and it almost certainly never will again. 2018, Luka Modric. The duopoly broke, and it took something extraordinary to do it. Modric won the Champions League with Real Madrid for the 3rd consecutive year, operating as the midfield heartbeat of one of the most dominant European campaigns the competition had seen, and then led Croatia, a nation of 4 million people, smaller than most European cities, to the 2018 World Cup final, the smallest country to reach a final since Uruguay in 1950. Croatia played 3 consecutive extra-time knockout matches, and Modric played every single minute of all 3. He won the World Cup Golden Ball as the tournament's best player. At 33 years old, a midfielder who had never been the fastest, the strongest, or the most physically imposing player on the pitch proved that intelligence, technique, and the ability to control the tempo of a match under the most intense pressure the sport can produce are worth more than all the physical attributes combined. Some felt Ronaldo or Messi still deserved it based on individual output, but the combination of a 3rd consecutive Champions League and a World Cup final with the smallest nation in the competition was too powerful for numbers alone to override. 2019, Lionel Messi, number 6. A record 6th Ballon d'Or, one more than Ronaldo, one more than anyone in history at that point. Messi won La Liga with Barcelona and was the top scorer in Europe with 36 league goals. The debate was the tightest in years. Virgil van Dijk finished second after winning the Champions League with Liverpool, transforming their defense into the best in Europe and being named UEFA Player of the Year, the closest a defender had come to winning the Ballon d'Or since Cannavaro in 2006. A vote that could genuinely have gone either way, and the argument over whether a defender's influence on a team should carry the same weight as a forward's individual output is one that still divides football fans today. 2020. Cancelled. For the first time since its creation in 1956, no Ballon d'Or was awarded. COVID-19 stopped the ceremony, stopped the season, and stopped what should have been the most clear-cut Ballon d'Or result in years. Robert Lewandowski had scored 55 goals in 47 matches across all competitions in the 2019-20 season, the most dominant individual campaign any striker had produced in years, and won the Champions League with Bayern Munich in a tournament played behind closed doors in Lisbon. He was the best player in the world by every conceivable metric, and the award simply did not happen. Many still view this cancellation as one of the biggest injustices in the history of football's individual awards. Not because the organisers were wrong to cancel during a global pandemic, but because the player who deserved it most may never recover the recognition that a Ballon d'Or would have permanently attached to his name. 2021. Lionel Messi, number 7. Copa America 2021, Messi's first major international trophy with Argentina, beating Brazil 1-0 in the final at the Maracanã in Rio de Janeiro, the piece that had been missing from his legacy for over 15 years of international football. The image of Messi lifting the Copa America trophy in tears, surrounded by teammates who had watched him carry the weight of an entire nation's expectations through 4 consecutive tournament heartbreaks, was the emotional peak of his career, even before the World Cup arrived. He also won the Copa del Rey with Barcelona in what turned out to be his final season with the club, before transferring to PSG. But Lewandowski finished second again, still producing at the highest level, still without the Ballon d'Or that the cancelled 2020 had denied him, and many felt the 2021 award should have been his as recognition, as compensation, as fairness. A Ballon d'Or that satisfied Messi's supporters and frustrated Lewandowski's in almost equal measure, and one that will be debated for as long as the award exists. 2022. Karim Benzema. The most dramatic Champions League campaign any individual has ever produced. A hat-trick against PSG to overturn a first-leg deficit, a hat-trick against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and then the goals against Manchester City that completed one of the most extraordinary knockout runs the competition has ever seen. 9 goals across 6 matches, each round under elimination pressure, each round more improbable than the last. He won La Liga and the Champions League with Real Madrid at the age of 34, becoming the oldest outfield Ballon d'Or winner since Stanley Matthews in 1956. No debate on this one. Benzema earned it so convincingly that the vote was not close. 2023. Lionel Messi, number 8. The World Cup. Argentina beat France in the 2022 final in Lusail, arguably the greatest football match ever played, a final that had everything. Messi's opening penalty, his extra-time strike that looked like the winner, Mbappé's hat-trick that dragged France back from the dead, and a penalty shootout that ended with Messi lifting the only trophy that had been missing from the most complete individual career in football history. 2 goals in the final, the Golden Ball as the tournament's best player, and then the 8th Ballon d'Or, a number so far beyond what anyone else has achieved that it may stand as a record for generations. With the World Cup in his hands, the conversation about whether Messi is the greatest player who ever lived effectively ended for most of the football world. The debate that had raged for 15 years had its answer, written in gold. 2024. Rodri. The first defensive midfielder to ever win the Ballon d'Or, and one of the most debated results in years. Rodri was central to Manchester City's 2022-23 treble, scoring the only goal in the Champions League final against Inter Milan, then anchored their unprecedented 4th consecutive Premier League title and won Euro 2024 with Spain as player of the tournament. But the name most people expected to hear that night was Vinicius Jr., the Brazilian who had just led Real Madrid to La Liga and the Champions League, scoring in the final against Dortmund with the kind of explosive, game-deciding brilliance the award has traditionally rewarded. Real Madrid were so certain Vinicius would win that when they learned the result beforehand, The entire club boycotted the ceremony. The question it left behind is one football still argues over: should the Ballon d'Or go to the most thrilling individual performer who won the Champions League, or to the player whose structural influence was so complete that when he tore his ACL in September 2024, Manchester City immediately suffered 5 consecutive defeats and collapsed? Rodri's victory proved football's highest individual honour does not only belong to attackers, but the debate around it is far from over. 2025, Ousmane Dembélé. The redemption story nobody saw coming, and one of the most dramatic career turnarounds the Ballon d'Or has ever recognised. The player who was labelled a flop at Barcelona, inconsistent, injury-prone, missing training sessions, underperforming against the weight of a transfer fee that demanded brilliance every single week, found his peak at PSG and produced a season that rewrote his entire career narrative in permanent ink. 35 goals during PSG's historic treble, Ligue 1, Coupe de France, and the Champions League, their first ever European Cup in the club's history. He won the Ballon d'Or with 1,380 points, over 300 clear of runner-up Lamine Yamal. From being the player everyone used as an example of wasted talent to lifting football's highest individual honour, proof that careers are not defined by the chapters where things went wrong, but by the one where everything finally comes together. Now, I want to hear from you. Which winner across these 25 years do you think most deserved it? And which one do you think should have gone to someone else? Drop your answer in the comments. I am always in there reading and debating with you guys. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you do not miss what is next. And if you want more football right now, click one of the videos on your screen. If you loved this one, you are going to love what is next.